Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! I'm a 20-year-old female and I have a disorder called epilepsy. You can search it up if you don't know what this is. I was diagnosed at the age of 12 and have had problems with it since. Different kinds of seizures in weird places like the shower, in the middle of class, during some of my streams, and so on. Backstory: I grew up in a small village that was very popular for tourists. The nature was gorgeous and there were so many things you could do at any time of the year. During summers, you could take different hikes and stuff. When I was about 15 and 16 years old, I moved to a different city away from my parents though. Not because of bad parenting, because of my college location. Of course, I did visit them sometimes, like during vacations, breaks like summer, winter, you get the point. And during one of my summer breaks visits, I decided to take on a job to see what it was actually like to work. My dad helped me get one by contacting one of his former employees, who now was the boss of a restaurant located on the top of a mountain with a beautiful view. They sold pretty simple foods there that I could make while working for them. The staff there were really nice to me and we all did a little of everything because of the small number of workers. Sometimes I was a chef, and then a few hours later I would be taking orders or be the bartender for those who wanted non-alcoholic drinks. Little of everything. This restaurant was pretty packed during summer and almost every table would be taken for at least 4 to 5 hours straight, so we had a lot to do when it came to the food and serving it. It was pretty stressful for little me since I don't do well with loud noises and packed locations. Kind of a nightmare in my opinion, but if I was an employee there, then I was going to work. My boss was very nice to me though, since she knew my dad and my diagnosis. We did have breaks, but they weren't more than 5 minutes long because of everything that needed to be done in this restaurant while it was open. The actual story: one day a family of 6 walked in while the entire restaurant was packed with people. So much so that some of our customers were sitting on a balcony floor while eating. They seemed fine with it though. After about 7 minutes of me serving some food and taking orders, giving it to the chef, I heard a super quiet clearing of a throat and turned around to see where it came from. It was from the family who were now standing in front of the exit door, blocking it. I took a deep breath and walked up to them with a smile on my face. "Hello ma'am, can I help?" She rudely interrupts me, saying, "Oh my gosh, finally! You were so slow!" At first I was shocked, but then asked her if she needed help with anything. To which she responded with, "Well duh! Me and my family need a table pronto so that we can sit down and get some food. We've had a very long walk and need to rest. Especially my kids." She points to her kids, who look to be around 10 to 15 years old and just looking at their phones. Even the husband was, not caring about what is happening. Well, at this point Karen was right in my face, beet red and looking like she's going to murder me through poison, with a huge amount of perfume radiating from her clothes. I backed away a few steps and said, "I'm sorry ma'am, but we're packed at this moment. I can't give you a table right now. If you want to though, you can wait outside of the restaurant until I can." If it was even possible, Karen became even more red and screamed at me, "Let me see your manager. You're being so rude." I started panicking but did as she said. I started looking for my boss, who was currently washing some dishes in the back. I ran over to her and explained the situation. She told me to stay here and that she would handle Karen while I took on the dishes. After a few minutes of washing, my head started to hurt and I was feeling like I needed to sit down or I would collapse at any moment. I knew what was happening and as quickly as I could, took out my phone. I messaged my dad that I was having a seizure and that I needed help because it was getting worse. My dad sent a message that he'd informed my boss I was on the way here to pick me up since I have no way of controlling my body and needed to go home or to the nearest hospital, which was about 5 hours away from where I was. My boss soon came back and told me that I could go home and she would handle my work today. When Dad arrived, he took my hand so that I had support and we started walking towards the exit where Karen and her family were still standing with Karen digging daggers towards my dad now. Then she decided to make the most stupid decision I have ever heard or seen. Karen walked up to my dad and started yelling at him, "What are you doing dragging her out of this restaurant? She's supposed to be working to get my family a table. Her boss will fire her for doing this." My boss walked up to her and said, "Ma'am, even though this is none of your business, I have allowed her to leave because my employee is having a seizure and needs to go home for some rest." My dad ignored the argument and we kept walking towards the exit. Then without any kind of notice, Karen grabbed me and started shaking me to prove that I wasn't having a seizure. My dad became furious and pushed her back, hiding me behind him out of Karen's reach. "Don't you ever touch my daughter again. I will have you arrested if you even try to talk to her." My dad shouted extremely loud at Karen so that everyone in the restaurant could hear us. It became completely quiet and Karen's face was as white as a ghost because she just realized what she had done. My dad then walked out carrying me in his arms to protect me since I was completely helpless now with how long my seizure had been going on for. A few days later, my boss told me that Karen and her family have now been banned from the place. If they try to come close, my boss will call the cops on them, and I can understand why. After making sure I'm okay and safe now, my dad still insisted on pressing charges as what Karen did was so dangerous as she had literally attacked a minor who had a disability and was practically dying. Context. Names and some details changed for privacy. I'm a professional attorney wrangler for a big legal firm. If you've watched Suits, I'm Donna if she was wound tighter than a child's music box. As a legal admin, I have to keep a tremendous amount of information straight. Every county in every US state has their own court system, their own rules, and their own idiosyncrasies. I have 5 attorneys on my team. Despite the TV shows, it's pretty unusual for a lawyer to have a special secretary all their own unless they are very important, so 5 is a solid number. Because of the nameless death that took over the world last year, a secretary that left in January 2020 has not been replaced yet, and I've been babysitting one of the partners, Bingley, in the meantime. It's been a fun learning opportunity as Bingley works for an entirely different region and type of law than the rest of my team. Also, he has a case where a truck exploded. It was empty, which is awesome. The story. My manager, Lady Catherine, is the worst. You know the type. She plays favorites, her best loved word is no, and she must be involved in every conversation because she is just that important and necessary. We don't get along because I'm a stubborn know-it-all who's been proven right a few too many times. Highlights include forbidding me from using the same resources other admins had access to on her orders, including backup admins when my workload was too big, and then denying my overtime requests. I literally had no way to do my job some days. It is worth noting that the reason Bingley's secretary left was specifically because of Lady Catherine. In fact, 4 additional admins quit over the year explicitly because of her. Anyway, at this point I've been working with Bingley for almost a year. It was November 2020 and we'd settled into a pretty good routine. I got used to filing pleadings in a different state and no longer needed to double-check all my work for nuance. Because law still operates in the Stone Ages, a few US states still require hard copy filing. Anything we want the judge to read has to be sent by actual mail, on actual paper, to arrive in the judge's actual hands. It's a pain. Most states let you file electronically, but whatever. Bingley mostly only has cases in one of the hard copy states. Lady Catherine, in her excessive wisdom, butted in uninvited and instructed me to include a cover letter when mailing a new filing. This confused me as I have been filing for almost a year and no one, including the admin who originally trained me, had mentioned the cover letter. I told her this and she basically told me to suck it up. I called the court admin to make sure I wasn't crazy and that I hadn't ruined a year's worth of filings, and the court admin literally laughed and said to please not include a cover letter ever. So, I didn't. Imagine my surprise when Lady Catherine called me, rising me up for insubordination, even knowing the court rules and the judge and the court admin explicitly said to not send a letter. She was right because she's always right, and I am, and I quote, a disrespectful little jerk, and she was tired of me. Okay, a warning went into my employee file pending disciplinary measures. The next day, she emailed my team telling them to reduce my score on my yearly review. She knew I had been rated too highly for what my abilities really are. It felt to me like she was preparing to fire me by creating a history of poor performance. Well, if you're so tired of me, Madam Manager, I can leave. Within a week of looking, I found a new position. Now here is the issue. I love my team very much. This is the best work team I've ever been on. We take each other seriously and we genuinely love each other. A lot of times admins get pushed around because we don't have fancy degrees, but not here. Calling in to quit, I cried. I cried a lot. I cried to the point that one of the partners, Bennett, asked if I wanted a counter offer. I said no, because that wouldn't solve anything. He asked what I meant, and I told him. I told him about the write-up. I told him how she was trying to falsify my employee review after it had been submitted. I told him the reason 5 admins had left. I told him about how I wasn't allowed to ask for help. At this point, I had given myself hiccups from weeping, and one of the partners on my team, Gardner, was calling him asking if he and his workload were the reasons I was leaving. So Bennett let me go do other things, like they drink and create a shrine out of legal forms. I thought it was the end of it until a friend in another office, Charlotte, called me asking what the hell I was doing. She doesn't have time to train someone into being the new me, and I was the only admin she actually trusts in my office, so why was I leaving her all alone? I told her, and she told Gardner, and together they plotted. First, Charlotte is a manager in her office, so she's on equal footing with Lady Catherine. They also report to the same person. Charlotte called the district manager and told him that Lady Catherine was driving admins away and that the most recent quitter, me, was the only person who knows how to do a lot of the work on my teams, and that my loss was a serious blow. Apparently, this is true, which is both heartwarming and terrifying. Meanwhile, Gardner called up a fellow partner and told her that his world would collapse in on itself if I left. He would go to the nearest bridge and jump off it, which would be pretty impressive in a landlocked state. They had to do something. I got a call the next day from Bennett saying they had a counter offer they were really hoping I'd take. Basically, instead of Lady Catherine, I would report directly to Gardner. Lady Catherine would be forbidden from interfering with me without first asking Gardner for his permission. This solved the issue and I got to stay with my team. So, I happily accepted. I thought the debacle was over. It was not over. Unbeknownst to me, after looking at the evidence, exit interviews, emails, memos, Bennett put Lady Catherine on a performance improvement plan and she did not get an end-of-year bonus or raise. Turns out I have been absolutely correct. Lady Catherine's behavior and treatment have been the explicit cause that 6 secretaries quit in less than a year. I got a call last week from Charlotte. I figured she wanted to gossip about co-workers or rant about how a shared client is a big old headache, but it was actually to give me a heads up. Lady Catherine had been stripped of her management duties. I no longer had any contact with her, which was great. But it also meant I didn't see that her behavior had actually doubled down on the admins unfortunate enough to still be under her thumb. She had missed every single one of the pinch markers on her performance improvement plan. Charlotte had called me to ask my opinion on who should be the new manager, as I know everyone and she was helping cover some things as an outside manager. Now, I know some of you are thinking, yes, become the manager and fire Lady Catherine, but I'm not a sadist. I want to stay on my team and do what I do best, which is being a cheerfully annoying, respectful little jerk. I told her one of the more senior admins would probably need some guidance, but will be amazing at it. No one has to deal with Lady Catherine anymore. She's now a mere paralegal and not anyone's manager at all. If she had just left me alone and not interfered where she wasn't needed, none of this would have happened. All she had to do was nothing. Not sure if this counts as malicious per se, but it was definitely compliance. So I was a part of one of my school bands a few years ago, playing the clarinet. We went to a nearby school and did a whole day workshop with our school's band, including playing a few pieces together. While we did this, the conductor would occasionally ask us questions relating to playing the current piece and have certain parts and instruments play bars, while the rest of us listened and the conductor helped them to improve on that part. I can't remember exactly how the exchange goes, but after a while, this roughly gets said by the conductor. Okay, we're going to have the part who play the main melody in part so-and-so play by themselves now. Now does anyone know which instruments play that part? Again, workshop. Student raises his hand and tells him, it's the clarinets. They play the melody. Okay, clarinets, get ready to play. Now here is the thing. For bars so-and-so, none of the clarinet parts playing anything. It's complete silence on our end. The student who said that obviously didn't play the clarinet and didn't sit near us, so they must have not known this. But I did. Guessing what was going to happen, I raised my hand. Conductor, the clarinets don't play that part. Just wait, you can ask your question after we play. But wait until after we play. So, I lowered my hand and just decided to just let the conductor see for themselves what I was trying to say and let her count us in. Conductor says, and 1, 2, 3, and silence. Utter silence. It took a few seconds for people to realize that we weren't going to play anything, and some people started laughing. The conductor realized what I was trying to tell her and quickly moved along. The rest of the day was fun and good learning experience. Sorry there isn't a big fallout like most stories, but it makes me laugh from time to time, and I hope it made you laugh too.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.